Researchers at IIT Madras have developed an artificial intelligence tool called PBOT for personalized cancer diagnosis. The tool helps identify cancer-causing genes and aids in better recovery for patients besides reducing side effects. As per World Health Organization, cancer is the second leading cause of death globally, that accounted for nearly 1 in 6 deaths in 2020. Cancer is an uncontrolled growth of cells that can occur due to mutations in oncogenes or tumour suppressor genes or both. However, not all mutations necessarily result in cancer. Therefore, it is important to identify genes that are causing cancer to devise appropriate personalized cancer treatment strategies. In an exclusive conversation with PBNS, Dr. Karthik Raman, a core member of the Robert Bosch Centre for Data Sciences and Artificial Intelligence at IIT Madras, explains to us what exactly is PBOT.
So I think one very important aspect of the fight against cancer is to try and understand the disease a lot better. And I think with a lot of accumulating genomic data, see, cancer is basically a disease of the genome. Right? So there are so many mutations that keep happening day in and day out. We accumulate mutations all the time, right? Most of them are harmless. Most of them don't have any noticeable effect in our lives. But one rare unfortunate mutation can actually trigger cancer and push us on that slope. So what we do here in this tool is trying to use the available wealth of genomic sequences to try and identify, understand, right, what are the mutations that are triggering off this disease. Right? And so this is basically the notion of what we call these pathogenic mutations, but can also be called as driver versus passenger mutations. Right? So driver mutations, as the name sounds, are those that drive cancer, the progression of cancer. They give cancer cells an undue advantage over the other cells, whereas passenger mutations are, we still don't know. We assume that they do not have any significant impact on the progression of cancer. So what has happened so far, right, in the last, I think, a decade or so, people have tried to come up with various methods to predict which of these mutations are important for the progression of cancer and so on. But what we have done now is to take this a step further and look at every single patient, right? So this is why we call it personalized. So in the context of a given mutation in a given patient might have a different role. A given gene in a given patient may have a different role in the progression of disease compared to others. Maybe I'll have Malvika add to this.
Ms. Malvika Sudhakar, a research scholar at IIT Madras and the chief architect of this study, explains how PBOT is based on a model that utilizes information on mutations.
Currently, methods which identify driver genes have been based on a cohort. So they're looking at pan cancer or like in a particular cancer type. So with Pivot, what we wanted to do was we wanted to look at the mutations which occur in a personalized manner. And as Sir mentioned, that there are driver mutations in driver genes. So, when there are mutations in these driver genes, it progresses cancer. So we looked at not only whether these genes are driver genes, but we went on to further label them as the two categories of driver genes, that is tumor suppressor genes and oncogenes. So with Pivot, what we are able to do is the model learns on data of known driver genes of patients and then predicts it for any unknown patient that you throw at it.
Ms. Malvika further explains the significance to identify personalized cancer genes.
Each one of us, every cell in our body consists of DNA, and DNA contains these genes. These are the hereditary material which is passed on from generation to generation. Now, some of these genes help in the proper functioning of the cell, right? And I mentioned that there are two categories. So we have genes which are tumor suppressor genes. That means normally when they function as they should, they suppress tumors. They do not allow the normal cell to progress into a cancer cells. And then there are other genes which are called as oncogenes, which actually help in the progression of cancer. So when they function normally, they are called as proto-oncogenes, and the cell performs as it should. But when this get activated, what happens is the normal cell turns into a cancer cell. So what happens is if there are alterations in these genes, which are TSGs or OGs, that is tumor suppressor genes or oncogenes, in that case, what the cell starts slowly moving from a normal cell into a cancer cell. Now, it is very important for us to know which of these genes has been mutated or altered, so that we can suggest as to what the progression of cancer has been, and hence suggest treatment for these patients.
Pivot is an artificial intelligence tool that will collect and study data to identify personalized cancer genes. This would amass a large number of individual data. Dr. Karthik explains if that could be a potential challenge. He says there's an increasing need to focus on the Indian specific data.
In fact, I think that's the beauty of AI, right? So we want more data. We want more data to build more accurate models, right? We want to identify what is, because I think the one word that I always associate with cancer is heterogeneity. There's just so much of heterogeneity in cancers, in the sense that there is so much different between two persons having the same cancer even, and so on, right? So there are like different mutations, different genes that are responsible, the pathways which these genes participate in are completely different. So this makes it very difficult for us to and this is sort of the reason why a generic treatment is not often very successful. So you need to tailor a treatment towards an individual. I mean, it's easier said than done, but I think the goal is to understand what is the difference in person A's cancer versus person B's cancer. And I think tools such as this, which rely on not just genomic, I think I've been mentioning genomic a lot, but if you look at the title of our paper, it starts with multi-omic data. So we don't just look at the genomic data, we also look at what is known as the transcriptomic data, which is RNA, and a lot of other expression data and copy number variations and whatever additional data that we can actually get on these data sets. And one thing to add here is that we need to also focus on a lot of India specific data. So currently this is not very India specific. We've just pulled data from the standard databases that people have generated across the world, which are sort of the gold standard in the field. But I think for tailoring these diagnoses, these analyses to the Indian population, I think we need to really look at India-specific data, and that is something that we really want to do in the future.
The research area of precision medicine is still at a nascent stage. Pivot helps push these boundaries and present prospects for experimental research based on the genes identified. The team plans to reach out to research hospitals for genomic data and further the scope of their study.
So see, this is still in a sort of early stage, in the sense that this is going to help build the understanding of the cancer, right? So I think we would love to get in touch with research hospitals who have this aptitude for research, right? So, and if they can actually get consent from the patients for sharing their genomic data and so on. Of course, it is always anonymized and completely unidentifiable. And this kind of data, when it starts coming in, I think we can really start making an impact. We can really try to understand what is different about like Indian specific cancers, right? There is a lot of prevalence of oral head and neck cancers in India. Can we understand them a lot better, right? Or even breast cancer and so on. So this is something that, we would like to, it's not, I'm trying to make a small distinction here, not collaborate with the clinic, but with like research hospitals, right? So this is still in a research phase. And I think, but this has a lot of promise for having an impact down the line.
Ms. Malvika tells us how they have built AI prediction model for 3 different types of cancer and how they are planning to extend it further to many more cancer types.
We have looked at 3 cancer types right now. So we have looked at breast cancer, we have looked at colon cancer, and lung adenocarcinomas. So we would definitely want to expand this work to all the different cancer types which we have data available on.
Ms. Malvika and Dr. Karthik tell us the journey behind the development of this tool and the expert team who helped in its creation.
So this has been sort of the final study in Malvika's PhD thesis. So she's been doing her PhD since 2015 and she's carried out a lot of interesting studies in this space of cancer genomics. She already has another couple of papers published in the area of cancer genomics. And I must say that this study is something that Malvika led entirely on her own, right? So she's been like the chief architect of the study in terms of designing the experiments. Obviously, I must also mention Professor Raghunathan Rangaswamy, who's our Malvika's co-advisor and a very important collaborator on this project. So he's a data science expert. So Raghu and I, we give her mentorship on the data science and so on. But I think Malvika has taken a lot of initiative and a very novel design of the study and so on. I'm going to let Malvika add to it, but I've now
It's making me feel very embarrassed. Actually, I would say that I have come to this point only because of my two supervisors, because they have given me the freedom and they have pushed me into directions and made me think for myself, and that's the only reason why we are here. And obviously, all my lab mates with whom I've had discussions over the years, because no work is an individual effort. So you have being part of groups like IBSC, RBCDSAI, we have group meetings and you have discussions in these meetings. And I think all those little conversations also brings us to this point. It's not like an individual effort at all. There might be just some co-authors on the paper, but I would, give credit to all my lab mates.
I must add to this thing about teamwork and the collaboration, right? So we have very vibrant environment at IIT Madras at our centers, right? So we have the Center for the Robert Bosch Centre for Data Science and AI, and the Center for Integrative Biology and Systems Medicine. We have quite a lot of students who work on related problems, and there is a lot of interaction between them. And the main idea, in fact, behind setting up this Center for Integrative Biology and Systems Medicine was we have a lot of experts in data science and quantitative sciences in IIT Madras, right? So to get them to work on a ton of publicly available data sets. So this was Professor Ashok Venkatraman's brainchild, in fact. So he's the one who sort of set up the center in the first place. He holds a chair professorship at our department, and he heads the Cancer Science Institute in Singapore currently. And I think, to sort of have access to these kinds of international experts and build these collaborations over a period of time and, point us in the direction of very exciting problems. I think that's been fantastic at these centers.
Thank you for watching. Stay tuned with PBNS for more updates on innovation and developments in the healthcare sector.